I have lived with this secret for 27 years. It has aged me in ways no mirror could ever reflect. You see, I slept with my best friend's husband, and then I smiled in her face. For years. Like nothing ever happened. It did not start with lust or some twisted plan. It started with wine, with laughter, with a woman I called sister passed out on the couch, and her husband still wide awake. It started with a soft flicker of candlelight, 2 glasses too many, and one look that lasted too long. And before I knew it, I had crossed a line I could never uncross. I still ask myself if I imagined the whole thing. But that morning, I woke up in the guest room, wearing his t-shirt, alone, and in the silence I knew something terrible had happened. Before I go on, I want to take a moment to say thank you to all my beautiful subscribers. Thank you for fueling this channel with your energy, your support, and your honesty. To the new and returning viewers who have not yet subscribed, please do. That little red button is what keeps this channel alive. It keeps these stories coming. Your comments, your thoughts, your reactions, they mean the world to me. So do not forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts below. I truly cannot wait to read what you think about this story. Now, back to Alabama, 1998. I was 28, single, restless, still trying to find my footing in life. My best friend, Leslie, was everything I was not. Settled, married, secure. She and Charles had just bought a cozy 3-bedroom house just outside of Birmingham. I loved visiting them. They made me feel like I belonged somewhere. Leslie was like a sister to me. We met in college, shared everything, clothes, dreams, even heartaches. She trusted me with her life. And I trusted her, until I betrayed her in the worst possible way. Charles was handsome. That slow, charming Alabama type. He was taller than most, with quiet eyes that always seemed to be reading between your words. I never allowed myself to think of him as more than my best friend's husband. But sometimes, I noticed things, like the way he laughed at my jokes when Leslie rolled her eyes. Or the way he looked at me when he thought I was not paying attention. I buried those feelings deep. Or, at least I thought I did. That night started harmlessly. Leslie invited me over for dinner. The 3 of us ate, drank, laughed about old times. Then Leslie opened a bottle of sweet red wine she had been saving since their anniversary. She poured generously. By the 3rd glass, she was slurring her words. She giggled, waved us off, and curled up on the couch. "You two keep talking," she said, yawning. "I'll be back in 5. But she never got back up. Charles and I ended up outside on the porch. It was warm, and the cicadas were humming. I remember the quiet, the stars, and the way Charles asked me questions he had never asked before. About why I never married, about whether I was happy, about whether I ever thought about the life I never got to live. I do not know what came over me. Maybe it was the wine. Maybe it was the sadness in his voice. Or maybe I just wanted to be seen. He brushed a strand of hair from my cheek. Just once. Gently. And I let him. That is the last thing I clearly remember. The rest is a fog of heat and shame and darkness. The next morning, I woke up in the guest room, alone. My heart pounded when I looked down and saw what I was wearing. His t-shirt. Not mine. I sat there frozen, barely breathing, as I listened to the silence of the house. And then, I heard Charles in the kitchen, humming, making coffee, like nothing ever happened. But something did happen, and I had no idea how to live with it. I did not sleep for 3 nights after that morning. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Leslie's face, smiling, innocent, oblivious. And every time I looked in the mirror, I hated the woman staring back at me. I wanted to believe nothing happened. I clung to the possibility that it was a drunken dream. But that lie unraveled quickly, because of the way Charles avoided me. When I came into the kitchen that morning, he did not look at me. He poured coffee for Leslie and offered me tea instead. He knew I preferred coffee. Always had. But he could not even say it. I sat at their table, across from them both, trying to hold a fork steady. Leslie kept talking about some new book club at church. Charles kept nodding. I kept drowning. That was the last morning I ever stayed the night at their house. The days that followed were worse. Charles never called. Leslie texted like normal, sending funny pictures, making plans. I lied and said I was busy with work, but I was not. I was just too ashamed to face her. Eventually, she showed up at my apartment with takeout and a bottle of wine. "You good, Thelma?" she asked, sitting on the edge of my bed like she used to in college. "You feel far away." I nodded too quickly. I smiled too hard. I hated myself even more. We ate. We laughed. She fell asleep on my couch halfway through a movie. And when I walked her to her car the next morning, Charles was in the driver's seat. Our eyes met. 1 second. That was all it took. The tension was thick enough to choke me. He drove off without saying a word. A few weeks later, I got the letter. It was left at the front door of my apartment in a plain white envelope. No name, no return address. But I knew the handwriting. It was Charles. He wrote just 1 page. I cannot stop thinking about that night. I should never have let it happen. You were not the one I was supposed to want, but I did. I still do. We crossed a line, but I do not regret knowing what it felt like. I only regret that we can never speak of it. Ever. I read that letter 5 times. Then I folded it and hid it inside the cover of an old cookbook Leslie had given me. I kept that letter for years. Not because I cherished it, but because it terrified me. From that point on, I avoided both of them as much as I could. Leslie noticed, of course. She called me one day and said, "Are you mad at me? Or did I do something wrong?" I felt my throat close up. "No," I whispered. "You did nothing." She paused. "Then what is it?" And that was the moment I could have told her everything. I could have told her that her husband had touched me, that I had let him, that I was weak and selfish and destroyed something sacred. But I did not. I lied. I've just been in a weird place emotionally. Work stuff. You know. And she believed me. Because why would her best friend lie? A few weeks later, Leslie invited me to their house for her birthday. I bought a nice scarf for her, one of those silk ones she liked. I stood at their doorstep for a full minute before knocking. Charles opened the door. He looked older, tired. "Guilt will do that to a man." He said, "Hey." I said, "Hey." And then I walked right past him, into the arms of the woman I had betrayed. She hugged me tight, and I smiled, and I lied again. But deep in my coat pocket was the letter, folded, faded, still burning a hole through everything I had left of my soul. Time moved on, but guilt never did. I moved out of Birmingham the following spring, took a job in Montgomery, started dating someone new. Eventually, I got married, had 2 boys, built a life that looked good on the outside. But that letter, it followed me. Every time I moved apartments, every time I rearranged my closet, every time I looked my husband in the eye during our vows, I thought about Charles. And Leslie. I never spoke to Charles again. Not after her birthday party. He never reached out, and I never tried to make contact. That was our unspoken pact. Silent betrayal sealed with cowardice. Leslie and I drifted, like people often do when life gets too busy or too heavy. We sent each other birthday texts, holiday cards, the occasional phone call. But I never stepped foot in her home again. I found out about the divorce 6 years later through a mutual friend. They split. Charles cheated, the friend said casually over lunch like it was weather talk. My stomach twisted. With who? I asked. They never said, but it nearly broke her. I do not think she saw it coming. I wanted to scream. I wanted to believe it was not because of me, that I had not been the first domino, that I was not the crack that led to their fall. But the truth was, I would never know, and that was its own kind of torture. I did not see Leslie again until I turned 50. She was battling breast cancer. Stage 2. Still fighting. Still smiling. Still trying to be the light in other people's lives. We met at a coffee shop in downtown Birmingham. She wore a scarf over her head. I brought flowers. Neither of us said the words, "I missed you," but they were hanging between every breath. We caught up like old times. Kids, work, life, love, pain. And just as we were getting ready to leave, she touched my hand. Her voice was soft. "Thelma, do you ever feel like some friendships die because of silence? Not fights, not betrayal, just silence?" My eyes welled up. It was time. I told her everything. Every word, every detail I could remember. The wine, the porch, the morning after, the letter, the lie. She did not cry. She just looked at me. And then she exhaled, like she had been holding something in longer than I had. "I always knew," she said. Those 3 words shattered me. She continued. "Charles told me. Eventually, years after it happened, when our marriage was already falling apart, he said it was a mistake, that it happened once, that you meant nothing to him." My heart dropped. She smiled, but it was the saddest smile I had ever seen. "I forgave him," she said, "but I never stopped wondering why you never said anything. You were the one I trusted most." I sat there, broken, trembling. "I was afraid," I said. "Afraid I would lose you." She nodded. "You did lose me," she whispered. "You just did not know it yet." We hugged before we left. It was not warm. It was not angry. It was just final. Like 2 people standing at the edge of something that could never be rebuilt. Leslie passed away the next year. I sent flowers. I did not attend the funeral because I knew I did not deserve to stand beside the people who truly loved her. I am 55 now. I still have the letter. Sometimes I think about burning it. Other times, I read it just to remember what guilt feels like. It is strange how one night can live in your soul forever. How a single choice can echo through decades. If I could go back, I would have walked away that night. I would have let Leslie sleep in peace. And I would have let my conscience do the same. Thank you for listening. Now I want to hear from you. Would you have confessed? Could you forgive a best friend who betrayed you like that? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, and please subscribe to the channel if this story moved you. It means more than you know. Until next time, stay true.